Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the NBA slate for Thursday. Only a 5-gamer as we head into the All-Star break. Hope you guys had a good night yesterday. We hit in cash games on both sides. Had to make changes once we got that Houston news late. We got a lot of the news at like 7:30 with Ja Morant, the Houston news, and the Anthony Edwards news. Ended up getting to Schroeder and Sengun, so got into the money in cash games. We played OG, and he did absolutely nothing. So disappointing night from OG and Anobi. But move on to tonight's slate. Let's get into it. As always, if you enjoy the video, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out Twitter for updates at the DFS process. Check out Prize Picks. You can use my promo code for a free deposit match up to $100. And you can check out the website if you want to join us. So looking at the point guard plays to get us started. You have one marquee game tonight is Philly against Milwaukee. That's going to be a very fun one to watch. Should be pretty good for DFS as well. But right now you have Luka Doncic. He's $12,400 going up against the Pelicans. He has been doing everything for the team. Had a tough night shooting last game out, but otherwise just doing everything in terms of rebounding, getting a lot of assists, playing a lot of minutes. It was a tough matchup against Miami, so not too surprising that Luka struggled with his shot just because they have a very good defensive team. You have LaMelo Ball at $9,400. He played 40 minutes, had a good first half, then he fouled out in the second half. Still, he's a fine play, but going up against Miami, it's a bit scary of a matchup. I think you can look to some better options here. You have Reggie Jackson at 68. He's playing a lot of minutes. He took 26 shots last game against Phoenix and took 8 threes. Unfortunately, did not make any of the threes, but still gave you 31 fantasy points. He's playing a lot of minutes right now without Norman Powell, so he's a good option just because the matchup is excellent against Houston. Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood sat out last night, so that's why I definitely wanted to get on like Sengun and Dennis Schroeder. Sengun was super low owned, as was Schroeder, was like under 2% owned. But both guys are probably questionable right now. If they happen to miss once again, then you're looking at Jalen Green at $4,700, going right back to Dennis Schroeder, going right back to Sengun. So keep an eye on the Houston news. There's always some sort of drama surrounding Kevin Porter and Christian Wood. Going with that's basically the value picks here. And you can look to Luke Kennard at only $3,200 just because he's playing mid-20s in minutes off the bench and he can get hot with his shot and the price tag is just super cheap. So he would be one value pick that you can really look to and kind of feel good about. Right now, I'll probably go ahead and put in Kennard just because he's super cheap. We're still waiting on some of the Houston news. That's going to open up things at the point guard position. At shooting guard, you're going to be looking at some of these Brooklyn Nets without Kyrie. Still, Ben Simmons isn't able to make his debut. Obviously, Durant is still out, so you're getting good price tags on like Cam Thomas, who had basically won the game for them last night with the clutch shot at the end. You have Seth Curry at 55, continues to be productive, scoring, getting you some assists, playing good minutes. He made 6 threes last game, which is definitely a lot, but he's always known to be a good shooter, so it's not super surprising. He's shooting over 40% from the floor. The matchup is solid against Washington. I'll put in Seth Curry. We've seen Patty Mills' price tag be pretty affordable, but his production has kind of come down. He's been ice cold shooting. Maybe he needs a couple of days off, which is the All-Star break is right around the corner for him. So I'd rather go Seth Curry than Patty Mills, and then depending on the Houston news, I'd rather get to like Jalen Green and Dennis Schroeder over Seth Curry. At least Seth Curry's still playable, but I'd probably look to definitely Dennis Schroeder at only $4,400. And KCP's been playing a lot of minutes. He had a monster game last night with 40 fantasy points. I don't know if I want to chase that, but he is playable just because Washington doesn't have a ton of bodies. And then also you can look to Eric Gordon as a solid option in terms of a value pick. Played 38 minutes last night, took 24 shots. I mean, they had a chance to upset the Suns in Phoenix, and then as the Suns typically do, they took over the fourth quarter. And that's the main pieces to kind of consider. Moving on to small forward, Kyle Kuzma is $9K, super expensive. I probably won't get to him at that price tag. Jimmy Butler is questionable at what? Hopefully he plays. I assume he will play going up against Charlotte. You have Morris Sr. at 62. It looks like a pretty good value pick right in the mid-range. We've seen Kelly Oubre come off the bench because he's been ice cold from the floor. So he's been in a slump as of late. And it's definitely not the easiest matchup to get back on track for Kelly Oubre. For the value picks here, you can look to like KCP, Matthews, depending on the news we get from Houston. And you can even look to some of these like Dallas guys are questionable. Reggie Bullock has missed last game, so like Josh Green started, and he was somewhat productive. But once again, we'll have to wait on that news. At power forward, we have Giannis at 12-1. He's coming off of a 50-point game going up against the Pacers. Pacers are one of the worst defensive teams in the league right now. The Sixers are much better defensively, but still, it should be a marquee matchup going with him and Embiid squaring off against each other. It should be a good one to watch, and there's not too many studs on the slate. You have Luka, Giannis, and Embiid, the three guys. Nobody else is above 10K. So if you wanted to get to Giannis, I think at home he makes a lot of sense. Other picks would be, not too much interest for me in like $7,900 Bridges going up against Miami. Kuzma's too expensive for me. Jayshawn Tate would be a good play if KPJ and Christian Wood are out once again. Then you have Robert Covington at just $3,900. He looks really good as a value pick. Pretty productive in terms of rebounding, scoring a little bit with the three-point shot, and then getting you a lot of defensive stats. Houston is so bad offensively in terms of turning the ball over, so you could see Covington rack up a lot of blocks and steals. Sengun had a monster game last night. He would be another great option today. 14 rebounds, 19 points. He looks good even if Christian Wood is in, but definitely would look a lot better if he is out. So those are the main value picks. Needed to go all the way down here. You can look to like James Johnson started, played 31 minutes. He'd be another decent value option, assuming he starts again. He did foul out, and it's a back-to-back. Don't know how many minutes he can handle, just based on his age, but he would be better than like Kessler Edwards, better than Thibault. At center, you have Embiid at 11.8. You can definitely stack Embiid and Giannis and just build around that core. But you do have some other value picks here, like $6,000 for Andre Drummond. Only played like 20 minutes last night. He's not going to play a ton of minutes, but he played 22 minutes. But he's super productive when he's out there. Even when he was backing up Embiid in Philly, didn't need that many minutes to be productive just because he gets you a ton of rebounds. He's super active around the glass, can get you a double-double. So I'm going to plug him in against Washington right now. 6K, at least get to a couple of Brooklyn Nets. Moving on to the guard position. Right now, there's not too many options that stick out just because we're waiting on some news, and it's only a 5-game slate with a couple of games not super appealing, like Miami, Charlotte game, assuming that both teams are all fully healthy. But I'm going to go ahead and put in Reggie Jackson right now at 68. It looks pretty expensive, but the minutes are going to be there. He played 37, 38, 40 the last 3 games. Does give you assist opportunities. Expect him to be back and a lot better shooting the ball. And he's been just a lot more aggressive that against Houston. It's just such a good matchup. Any team going up against Houston puts up like north of 120 real-life points. So the Clippers being a little bit shorthanded right now without Norman Powell, who if he was in, then that rotation would be a little bit more crowded. But there's not too many bodies that they give a lot of minutes to. So Reggie Jackson, 68, looks great. And then the last Clipper guy that I like is Zubats. At the center position, I think you can go Drummond, Zubats at your centers and feel pretty good about it. Both guys give you monstrous upside. Zubats played over 30 minutes. We can probably lock him in for a double-double tonight against Houston. And at home, just looks pretty good just based on how cheap he is. So that's about it for the first look at this Thursday slate. Let's go ahead and look at the Fanduel picks. All right, on Fanduel, point guard plays. Luka looks excellent at 11.3. You'd be a priority at the point guard position if you wanted to pay up because your next guy is LaMelo Ball, who still looks good, but the matchup is definitely tougher going up against Miami. Not too interested in Tyrese Maxey at 78. I'd rather go probably up to Jrue Holiday a little bit. I do like Reggie Jackson at 67 just because he's pretty affordable. And then going further down, you can look to Kyle Lowry just because he's super cheap. Seth Curry at 6,000. And definitely look to like this 2, Dennis Schroeder and Jalen Green. Hopefully we get that Houston news early in the day. If not, then you might want to leave some flexibility left because that's the only game after 8:30. So, if we got word that KPJ and Christian Wood are out, you probably want to leave some money to get up to Shooter, or at least to get to Shooter, Jalen Green, get to Sengun. Right now, I'm putting Reggie Jackson, 67. At shooting guard, you have Luka. Definitely looks like an excellent option here. Going further down, CJ McCollum's been balling, even though they haven't been winning a ton of games yet in New Orleans, but he looks good in terms of just a DFS play. Cam Thomas is too expensive on FanDuel at 68. I'd rather go down to Even like Patty Mills would probably look better than 68 for Cam Thomas. You don't have too many options in the 4K range besides like the Houston guys. You have Luke Kennard at 44, looks pretty good as a value pick, and then you have KCP at 42, has been playing pretty good for the Wizards as of late and playing a lot of minutes. So he would be another guy that you can plug in at a very reasonable price tag, or you can go down to Eric Gordon, who looks good even if Kevin Porter and Christian Wood are in. But maybe he decides to have a day off today. But I'll put in KCP right now. Don't feel great about him, but I can definitely upgrade once we get some news. Small forward, Giannis at 11.5 is too cheap. You can plug him in at this position or power forward. We'll see how this position looks. Kyle Kuzma looks good on Fanduel at 77. He's really affordable. And then you can even go down to like Ingram at 76. But playing next to CJ McCollum is definitely going to take away from his usage. Morris at 61 looks good. He looks better than Terrence Mann, looks better than Avdija, than Nick Batum. Batum and Covington are priced where they should be on FanDuel. They're not great values. And then going down to like maybe James Johnson, but once again, he looks better on DraftKings. Luke Kennard looks good too, but he looks better at $3,200 on DraftKings. Eric Gordon looks good. And that's basically it. You can look at Korkmaz, but he just hasn't been that interesting. Bertans finally had some sort of a good game. Now that he's getting minutes once again in Dallas. Power forward, you can plug in Kyle Kuzma at 77. He looks pretty good as a value pick. I'm sure he's going to be super popular like he was again yesterday, but not too much otherwise. Not too many other options to like as of now. If we get that Houston news, Jayshawn Tate would be a great play. Probably look to like maybe Sengun would be an absolute lock at 48. So if we get that Houston news, I think I might just stack the last game and then maybe just have like Giannis as my stud. But build around that last game just because there's both sides look really good. At center, you have Embiid at 11.4. If you want to pair him with Giannis, see how much money we have left. You have 46.25. That's definitely doable given all the value that we potentially could have on the slate. Drummond looks great at 66, but Valanciunas is only 64. That price tag on Valanciunas is super cheap. So let's see how he's been not having monster games recently just because they've been giving some minutes to Jackson Hayes and they've been giving minutes to Hernan Gomez. So he's not been playing like the normal 36 to like 38 minutes that he normally does. That he was earlier in the season. But 64 is really cheap. I'll put him in. He's basically going to get the same amount of minutes as Andre Drummond. So you just got to hope that he outscores Drummond. Zubats looks better on DraftKings. 62 is pretty expensive. And then Sengun would be a great play if he's starting. But that's it for right now. I'm sure we'll get some changes throughout the day. We're still waiting on a good amount of news. But thank you for watching. Best of luck tonight, and I will see you all next time.